Welcome to the Real Out Loud podcast. We will be engaging in conversations with peers and professional guests about life experiences that reel or bring people off balance. Join us for today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Real Out Loud podcast. This is your girl Nicole, and I'm not alone. I am with Wendy. How are you, Wendy?
I'm good. How are you, Nicole?
I am well. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic on how females have somehow to catch up with men in the boardroom while finding their balance as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, and other titles that we have in our society. How do you feel about the topic? Are you excited? Are you anxious? It's quite controversial.
It's a controversial topic, so I'm nervous but excited at the same time because I think it will give us some 2 cents to think about.
Oh, okay. While we move on, we are now living in a world where discrimination against women and girls has deep historical roots that we cannot deny. You quickly realize that while there have been a lot of positive changes that have happened over the years, there's still a lot that needs to be done. Women have had to fight for a lot of the same freedoms and opportunities that come naturally for men. And in addition to being disadvantaged in general, there's also a high rate of women and girls being actively targeted and abused by men, particularly within, the corporate world. So today what we're going to discuss, it's mostly on that. Yeah. My first question to you would be, what have been your observations in this regard where, we're talking of men having the upper hand than women being abused by men indirectly so in the corporate world? What has been your observation?
Okay. I know initially, like when I started getting into the corporate world, there was a lot of talk of people having reached where they are, either as executives or seniors or managers in the company, based on who they were sleeping with and not really based on their competence.
Okay.
But I've also noticed that things have started evolving. We now have women who genuinely work hard and who are genuinely being employed based on their competence. So there has been a shift from having to know someone or sleep with someone to get an appointment to now having to actually be competent to get the appointment and the role.
Okay, so women are being more competent nowadays.
Yes, we are challenging ourselves. We are learning. We are adjusting and advancing to become more relevant in the corporate world.
Would you call it equality? What are you vouching for? Is it equality or is it just that you just want to, be yourselves?
I think it's a bit of equality. I'm not really a person who pushes equality.
Okay.
But I think people are now realizing that hard work pays. Okay. And also you recognize talent where it is. So previously you'd not recognize talent. Maybe someone would be recognized for their looks or who they sleep with. Okay. Whereas now you are recognized because of what you bring to the table.
Really?
Yes.
Now when people are registering companies, they're checking how many percentage of women are in there and how many percentage of men are in there. Could that be another factor that makes women to be involved in certain roles without necessarily them being competent, just as a way to shut down the views or the punishments that can come in the corporate world because of that? Or is it actually that they need these women there on those positions for for improvement reasons?
I've noticed there are extremes for some businesses or for some, if I can say, industries.
Okay.
They want the women to be there for
On
them to
paper.
get the BEE. So you find someone is a cleaner in the company, they don't know that they are registered as the owner of the company because
Oh.
they want the BEE status. But there's also a generation of men who are coming up and they appreciate what the woman brings to the
The
table,
table.
and how our thinking is different from men. And that for me is where personally I am more inclined to support, because I always believe that if you're working hard for something or if you're bringing something to the table, let it be recognized.
You know, now that we are talking about this whole BEE thing, I think I'm also starting to realize that that's part of the abuse that comes in the corporate
Yes,
world as well, that women have to deal with.
yes,
The fact that, you know, you are just there as a representation of the numbers, but your voice does not matter in the department. It doesn't matter.
yes.
Whatever you bring to the table doesn't matter. We only thought that, you know, there's, you know, sexual harassment, that's the only form of abuse in a corporate world, but that's actually brought us to some enlightenment.
Yes. And I've worked in a place where someone would actually take advantage of women to say, if you want to become a manager, then I also need something from you.
Okay.
And you'd find that, yes, the women are there, but any new person that comes into the department, there are cat fights, because
Okay.
now you don't know, are they here through the same way I came in, or
Okay.
have they come in through a different space?
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about this abuse that happens within the corporate world. Do you want to dive in maybe on that? Some of the abuses that you have seen happening in the corporate world between the two genders.
The one that I've really seen is, okay, it's the sexual abuse,
Okay.
where a man knows that they are in a position of power,
Okay.
and if you want the bonus or the promotion,
Okay.
you need to then either sleep with them or
Okay.
give them an extra favor. And it happens especially in environments where, I don't want to say honor led, but there is no proper governance
Okay.
in the institution or the organization.
Uh-huh.
And there are also no proper policies or processes that are followed for recruitment. And it also happens where a man knows that they call the shots and no one is going to question them,
Okay.
which is quite sad, but it's the reality of the corporate world. Then the other form of abuse that I've seen is when a woman is now there and they're genuinely hardworking, and a man knows that there's a chance that the woman is not the breadwinner at home. There's probably a husband at home who's taking care of the bills. So they make you work, but not get the salary that
Okay.
a man in the same position is getting. So they take advantage of your hardworking character, but not want to pay you and recognize you for the work that you're doing.
So power struggle doesn't only happen in the relationships, eh? It's even it's even manifesting itself in the offices as well.
Yes, because everyone wants to maximize on the money they are making. So if they can make the money from abusing you as a woman, some will do.
Okay. Okay. So moving on, today's tragedy is that women are trying so hard to support themselves and their dependents in a world where they are unfairly rewarded, like you were saying, for the same amount of work that probably a man has done,
Mm.
just based on the prejudices that come or go unchecked out there. So, what are some of the privileges that you have seen men enjoy outside of the salary part that we have already discussed? What do they enjoy while women are being denied that privilege, if I can say?
I think the first one that I've seen was, you find that even if you're all in management as men and women, when there's a outing or some travel, some exposure or training, normally the privilege goes to the men.
Okay.
Why? Because the men does not have children at home that need to be bathed, and there's no one to
Okay.
clean. So people tend to say, okay, we'll allow this privilege to happen to the men
Okay.
because they do not have any other responsibilities beyond maybe paying or providing for the family. Whereas the woman, especially if your child is still young, maybe you're still breastfeeding, um, there's that discrimination that no, they cannot travel. I had an incident where my friend was breastfeeding, but she could, these days people can bottle the breast milk and travel. So she was actually denied a management course, which was 2 weeks
Okay.
because of the breastfeeding aspect.
Okay.
And yet, when there was a situation that needed someone to travel out of Gauteng to go and work somewhere, and they knew they needed a hard worker, she was sent, and she still had to bottle the milk. So for me, it was, why is it when it's convenient,
Okay. Okay.
when it's convenient, she cannot travel to get a management training because she's breastfeeding, and yet in another breath she has to go because she's the hard worker in the department. Personally, because I am one person who really believes in development and
Okay.
developing myself, I do not want to bring my hormones to the table to affect the product that I give to the company. So even if I'm having my period pain, you will not know that I'm having my period pain. So I expect to be treated fairly.
I've had a friend that has had to go through the issue of being laid off work for pregnancy reasons.
Mm.
Could you say those are some of the privileges that men are enjoying? They can still have babies, kids, build a family, but women are being denied that privilege. Once you start childbearing, then you're not getting any promotion at work, but the husband is equally a responsible parent to the children. What do you think?
Um, I find it to be very unfair because to a professional woman, pregnancy is not a disability.
Okay.
So what they bring to the table does not change because they are now carrying a child. So I find it unfair to dismiss someone just because they are pregnant. And if we are to develop as a country or as a young generation, we need to find that balance and to accept that pregnancy is not disability.
And sometimes it's not only on the pregnancy, it's actually you being denied a role or a promotion before it even happens because they are suspecting that.
True. I remember I had one workmate who had to move from where she was working because they had denied her. She had just been married. So they had denied her a promotion, saying, we know you are now going to be focusing on childbearing. And I think she had to change the job despite loving it so much. She had to change because now it was a choice between personal development and being put into a bracket that you're childbearing, so you're not going to really bring any growth to the company.
While there's a heavy expectation on women to play that leading role of having to raise children in a household, you find that the corporate policies that are there now, they tend to punish women for that. And probably by offering little or no, not even any support to these female employees, also threatening their job security, probably by threatening, to adjust their work routine. And sometimes you find that they can prefer to hire men instead of women who are equally qualified or more qualified. So if you had an opportunity to bring in a specific change, probably to these kind of corporate setups or situations, I heard you speak about proper governances, policies, and recruitment policies. What kind of change would you actually institute?
Okay. I think coming from COVID, the first change I would institute is allowing people to work from home.
Okay.
Because I've noticed that during COVID, the office setup, we had to accept that it doesn't always mean that just because someone is in the office, they're being productive. So I always think that women, we are responsible enough. So if I have to work from home and I know I have a deliverable, it gives me that flexibility to still be a mother, find time to play with the child after school, find time to cook, and still be able to submit on whatever work that needs to be done. So the first area I'd definitely change would be allowing people to work from home.
Sometimes we had to travel to go places for professional development. You'd have to travel probably to Cape Town, different towns and all that. But now, internet, technology, it's making it easy. Google Teams, Zoom, all that. They're really making things very easy and light for us. So even if you're a woman, you are having, 6 kids at home, 5 kids at home, it doesn't matter anymore. You can still attend those meetings. You can still attend those professional development platforms within your space, but being able to keep the balance between being a parent and also being, someone in the work environment as well.
Oh yes, definitely. And balance is important for a woman. And working from home would really help in bringing the balance.
Okay.
And during COVID, we also got to realize that you need the technology, you also need a strong support system.
Okay.
And that strong support system even helps, like when you need to work and the children need to be fetched from school. You can just ask Nicole, please, can you go fetch my child? And life goes on, work goes on. So yes, as women, we need to be mindful and make sure that we have the best support system around us to even be able to deliver in the organization. Because you don't want, I know some people even don't want to employ women because we will say around 1, I need to go for a school run to fetch my
disorganization now. Because the company, that 1 hour you're not there, the company is losing out on money.
Yes. So us as women, we also have a role. We also have to plan our life, knowing that if it means that 1 hour is my lunch hour, then so be it. Because if I want to be fairly treated, there should also be something that I'm willing to give up. I can't have lunch and time for a school run.
Yeah. So with this expectation comes responsibility as well. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Sometimes society, it makes the burden worse by the stigmatization that is out there, the stereotyping of women and, certain roles and stuff like that. What would you advise on that part of the stigmatizing and the stereotyping of women within the corporate setup?
Okay. For me, I realized that yes, there is stigma, but it's also people just being resistant to change. And
I used to find it very strange when I would see certain women do certain, jobs. Like, what's up with this one? Like, It's only new to us now that we have Uber, female Uber drivers,
Mm,
female bus drivers and whatnot.
yes,
How do you help people like me?
yes, I remember last month I was shocked when I saw a female long distance bus driver. I thought, okay, yeah, the world
Things are
is really
really
changing.
changing. Yeah. So you have to
But
move with the change.
yes, so I think as a society embracing that times are changing and what women bring to the table is also of value. So, for example, in the past, you'd find organizations would come up with policies that are more geared towards men and taking care of men in the work environment. Now, if you have a woman on the board in the board and they strong and they add value to the organization, it could actually change the direction. I have some friends who are in positions where they can uh, make policy changes in the organizations, and I've seen the impact it has brought even to the work culture because we tend, yes, we are women and we are viewed as weak, but we are also people who know how to find balance, because you need to balance between your work, your children, being a mother, being a wife, being a sister,
Sister.
everything. Yes. So I found that the policies that we bring as women to the table, they are balanced and they cater for different circumstances that might happen or that we might incur in the organization because of the flexibility that the organization has.
Okay.
So those type of policies really are things that we need to start considering to bring change.
Sometimes, in as much as we would want to think that things have changed, sometimes there are still places where male children receive preferential treatment when it comes to education over women,
Yes.
over girls. So basically, we are literally saying that the struggle starts quite early.
I come from a family that is 90% women. If you don't empower those women, then who's going to take care of the next generation?
Okay.
I know some uncles will be saying, "I, why must we invest in the girl child?" And yet, now that some of the other uncles decided to still invest in us, now they realize, okay, the girl children are the ones
Doing better.
doing better. They are
More focused.
they are bringing families together. They are taking care, building houses for their parents, and for them, even as uncles, they are also taking off their own children, taking them to school because we want to grow. They say you give a woman a seed, they will develop it. So even the seed of just investing in a child's school
Yeah.
also just develops them and helps society at large.
Wow, that's really interesting. How do we keep the balance of people's beliefs, like spiritual beliefs of the role of where women should be? I know spiritually we are viewed as helpers, not the heads. Doesn't that challenge our spirituality in a way of wanting to be, you know?
It
I know back in
can't.
the day, even in the Bible, would see that women were not even preachers. They wouldn't even be pastors or hosting a church and stuff like that. What changed?
Um, I know. I remember even my friends just this year was asking me, should women be preachers in church? And for me, I find that embracing what a woman brings, it goes back to the values that a woman brings.
Okay.
You find that where at times a male would be firm, a woman would be a bit more flexible, but still bring the result that is needed.
If I am correct, were you once involved in the recruitment process?
Yes, I've been involved in recruitment.
What changes are they bringing in recruitment that also see women?
The main thing is assessing the competence. You'd find that in other positions previously,
Okay.
a woman would come dressed in a certain way because the belief was, I'm probably getting to be interviewed by a male.
Okay.
Whereas now, when they come and they realize, okay, the panel is maybe 50% women, the conversation itself changes, the direction of the interview changes, because now there is a balance between, and you're really looking at what is the person bringing
To the
as
table.
opposed to how they look.
I don't want to say this, but sometimes I feel like women, we also have a tendency of bringing each other down. In as much
True.
as we are talking about this issue of running in heels, we
Mm.
are our own enemies in a way.
Yes, women are, we bring each other down, especially where we feel there's competition and we want to be seen.
Okay. We
Because
want to stand out.
yes,
Okay.
because some people have the perception that in the corporate environment, the person who's speaking is the one who knows it all, and yet your support system is the one that probably prepared the report, someone typed it,
Exactly.
and you just came to present. And I find that in the corporate environment, people want to fight to be the one who is seen, and and yet and yet it doesn't always have a impact on what contribution you bring as the woman in the organization, because I might be the person who's doing backup, but if my backup is wrong, then everything else can be messed up. So appreciating each other and just respecting that each role has a part to play it in bringing the organization or whatever project that you want to work. If you respect each other, it helps.
Women. There are people who
Competition.
know more than you do. There are people who are more educated than you. There are people who are more skilled than you. Desire to learn from another lady than you desire to be them.
Yes, and just because someone is in the limelight, learn to cheer them on, because your turn will also come.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. A very key. I think we can just shut down this discussion because we have just hit the core of some of the problems that most women face in the corporate sector. We are our own enemies.
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of key decisions in the health sector, in the safety sector, government, security, law, corporate, and policies that are made out there are still being made by men for women with a little to no consultation and sometimes with actual prejudice. That's why sometimes I think there's no one to actually speak up for women. But I like what we are seeing on social media nowadays. Women, we are having advocates of women. But I was just thinking, you once mentioned about this issue of certain people rising to positions through the wrong means. To say, how are we going to get the change then? If I slip my way up or if I use politics, how am I going to then bring the change that is necessary? Because there are other negative factors that have pushed me up. I didn't necessarily earn it on my own.
Yes. I always like the saying that says, be the change you want to see. So I challenge it back to the men that are allowing women to sleep their way up, to say, if you want to see change in the organization or in society, take a look at yourself and see what change you can bring to the organization so that you get people who add value, as opposed to people who are there for the sake of ticking a box that there's a woman or there's a manager in the
For
organization.
unfair benefits.
Yes.
Okay. You see, sometimes women start to become disrespectful in their households. Do you think that could actually be also causing the problem of men not allowing their women to rise?
You need to be able to, as an individual, not just as a woman, you need to be able to transition from your role at work and your role at home, or your role as a sister or as a daughter. Because if you're not able to transition and you take, I'm the director at work, so I must be a director at home, you get frustrated, you get burnt out, because now you are you are busy focusing on wanting to direct things in the house when you should be coming to a home where it's peaceful. You're being friends. You are enjoying your partner's presence.
Okay, guys, final thoughts. We can and should continue to empower women with tools and workshops, but we must not neglect the fact that transformation is required from within the structures that we find ourselves, either the policies, the cultures, even the attitudes that we have towards women and girls or towards ourselves. Any final thoughts from you, Wendy?
As women, learn to find balance. And don't be afraid to seek help where you need it, because for you to run in heels, for you to be able to be relevant, you need to be able to have a good support system.
Yeah.
Also, teach, learn, and grow. Listen, be able to be willing to read and stay relevant in whatever organization you are. Don't be that person who, just because you're employed and you're sitting in that role, you then don't do any research. You can't hold a conversation when you're having a meeting. You are not able to bring any contribution to the table. So I challenge us as women to just let's take these organizations, let's grow, but that growth starts with us developing ourselves.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for this lovely conversation. We will hear what our listeners have to say, what contributions they have. Probably there are things that are important that we might have not spoken about, but that can actually help women out there.
Check out the rest of our episodes on YouTube, Apple, and Google Podcast, or anywhere you get your podcasts. There, you'll find more topics that you or a friend will definitely be interested in. Thank you for listening.